Welcome to Real Talk Daily, where real conversations about life, relationships, and emotions come alive. Real Talk Daily, real voices, real stories, every single day. Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Talk Daily. Today we are talking about something that feels impossible to avoid recently. Every time I open social media, watch YouTube, or even check the news for a few minutes, I see the same names again and again. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, American politics, economic debates, social media arguments. It feels like the entire internet is talking about these topics right now.
Yes, and what I find interesting is that even people who normally do not care about politics are paying attention. Maybe they do not follow every detail, but they still hear these names constantly. Trump says something, Elon Musk posts something, and suddenly millions of people are discussing it online.
Exactly. And honestly, sometimes it feels like everybody has a very strong opinion about both of them.
That is actually a useful word, opinion.
Yes, I hear that word all the time.
An opinion is simply what somebody thinks or believes about something. For example, two people can look at the same situation and have completely different opinions. One person might think a politician is helping the country, while another person thinks the opposite.
And I think that is why conversations about Trump become so intense, because people rarely feel neutral about him. Usually people either support him very strongly or criticize him very strongly.
Very true, and that is one reason he remains such an important figure in global news. Even people outside the United States often follow what he says because his decisions can affect international politics, business, and even world markets.
Recently I was reading comments online, and I noticed something interesting. Many people were not only talking about Trump himself, they were also talking about Elon Musk and asking how much influence he has today.
That is another very important word, influence.
I think people hear it often, but maybe not everybody fully understands it.
Influence means the ability to affect people, decisions, or situations. For example, a president has influence. A famous celebrity has influence. Somebody with millions of followers online can also have influence because people pay attention to what they say.
And Elon Musk definitely has influence.
A lot of influence.
Sometimes it feels like one single post from him can create a huge discussion across the internet.
Yes, because he is not only a businessman anymore. He has become a public figure connected to technology, politics, social media, and global discussions about the future.
And I think that is where things become interesting. Years ago, people mostly knew Elon Musk because of Tesla or SpaceX. But now, people talk about his political opinions almost as much as his companies.
That is true, and because of that, many people have started debating whether powerful business leaders should have so much influence in political discussions.
That word too, debate.
Yes, a debate is a discussion where people have different ideas or different opinions about something.
Which basically describes the internet every day.
Honestly, yes.
Sometimes I scroll through social media and it feels like everybody is debating everything.
And not always in a calm way.
Definitely not in a calm way.
I think one reason for that is because politics has become more personal. People do not only discuss policies anymore, they often connect politics to identity, values, and emotions.
That is actually very true. Sometimes people are not arguing about facts anymore. They are arguing about how they feel.
Exactly, and feelings are often much harder to change than facts.
So when people discuss Trump, Elon Musk, elections, or government decisions, the conversation quickly becomes emotional.
Yes, because many people feel that these decisions affect their future.
Which is another word we should probably talk about, future.
Definitely, because when people talk about politics, they are usually talking about the future in some way. The future of their country, their jobs, their economy, or even the future of technology.
And honestly, I think that is why these conversations have become so big recently. People feel like the world is changing very quickly.
Very quickly.
Technology is changing. Politics is changing. Social media is changing. And many people are asking the same question.
What will the future actually look like?
Exactly.
And in the next part, I think we should talk more about why people have become so divided politically and why social media seems to make every debate bigger than before.
Because honestly, that might be one of the biggest stories in the world right now.
Definitely.
Stay with us. So before the break, we were talking about Trump, Elon Musk, politics, and why these conversations seem to be everywhere recently. And honestly, one thing I keep noticing is that people online seem much angrier than before. Every discussion turns into a fight very quickly.
Yes, I have noticed that too. Even when the topic starts as a simple discussion, it often becomes emotional very fast. Somebody shares an opinion, another person disagrees, and suddenly the conversation becomes much bigger than the original topic.
Exactly. And I think social media plays a huge role in that. Years ago, people mostly discussed politics with friends, family members, or people around them. But now, one post can reach millions of people in a few hours.
That is very true. And because of that, every debate becomes more visible. People are constantly seeing arguments, disagreements, and strong opinions from all sides.
Which is interesting because social media was originally supposed to connect people.
Yes, but sometimes it feels like it does the opposite. Instead of helping people understand each other, it often pushes people into groups where everyone already thinks the same way.
That is actually a really important point, because if somebody only sees opinions they already agree with, then every different opinion starts to feel strange or even wrong.
Exactly, and that creates division.
Division is another useful word.
Yes, division means separation between groups of people. For example, when society becomes divided politically, it means different groups stop understanding each other and start seeing each other as opponents.
And honestly, I think many countries are experiencing that right now, not only America.
Definitely. America gets most of the attention because it is such a powerful country, but political division is happening in many places around the world.
And I think people like Trump and Elon Musk become symbols in these discussions. Sometimes people are not only talking about those individuals anymore, they're talking about bigger ideas through them.
That is very true. For example, when people discuss Elon Musk, they are often really discussing technology, free speech, social media, artificial intelligence, and the future of society.
And when people discuss Trump, they are often talking about immigration, government power, elections, economic policies, and national identity.
Exactly. Which is why these conversations become so emotional. People feel like the future is connected to these topics.
I think another reason people pay so much attention to Elon Musk specifically is because he is different from traditional business leaders. Most CEOs stay relatively quiet politically, but Elon Musk shares his opinions publicly all the time.
Yes, and because he owns one of the biggest social media platforms in the world, people pay even more attention to what he says.
Sometimes it feels like one tweet can create a global debate.
Honestly, sometimes it does.
That is kind of crazy when you think about it.
It really is. A single message posted online can become international news within hours.
Which shows how much influence technology companies have today.
Exactly. And I think many people are still trying to understand whether that influence is positive, negative, or somewhere in between.
That is a difficult question.
Very difficult. Because technology gives people a voice, but at the same time, it can also create confusion, misinformation, and stronger divisions.
I think that is why people feel overwhelmed sometimes when following the news. Every day there is another debate, another argument, another headline, and another controversy.
Yes, and after some time, people start feeling mentally exhausted because there is always something happening.
Which honestly brings us back to something we talked about in previous episodes. Sometimes people spend so much time consuming information that they forget to disconnect and simply live their own lives.
That is very true. Being informed is important, but constantly living inside political arguments is probably not healthy either.
So maybe the challenge today is finding balance. Understanding what is happening in the world without letting it completely control your emotions.
Exactly. And I think in the next part, we should talk about the future, where America might be heading, how technology could change politics even more, and why so many people are uncertain about what comes next.
Because honestly, I think that is the biggest question everyone is asking right now.
Definitely.
Stay with us. So throughout today's conversation, we have talked about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, social media, political division, and the way technology is changing public discussions. But I think the biggest question behind all of these topics is actually very simple. What does the future look like?
Yes, because when people argue about politics, elections, technology, or government decisions, they are usually thinking about the future. They are asking themselves what kind of world they will live in 5, 10, or 20 years from now.
And honestly, I think that is one reason these conversations have become so emotional. People are not only discussing today's problems, they are discussing their hopes and fears about tomorrow.
Exactly. And when people feel uncertain about the future, they naturally pay more attention to leaders, business figures, and major world events. They want somebody to explain what is happening or where things are going.
Which is interesting because today, many people seem to trust technology leaders almost as much as political leaders.
That is true. A few decades ago, most people looked to governments for answers. Today, people are also looking at people like Elon Musk, technology companies, and artificial intelligence to understand what might happen next.
Speaking of artificial intelligence, that is another topic that seems impossible to avoid right now. Every week, there is a new discussion about AI, jobs, education, or the future of work.
Yes, and I understand why people are fascinated by it. Artificial intelligence is developing very quickly, and many people are excited about the possibilities. But at the same time, many people are nervous too.
I think the excitement comes from the idea that technology can make life easier. It can help people learn faster, solve problems, improve businesses, and create opportunities that did not exist before.
Definitely. But the concern comes from uncertainty. People wonder which jobs will change, which industries will be affected, and how society will adapt.
There's that word again, uncertainty.
Yes, and honestly, I think uncertainty might be one of the most important words of our time. Whether we are talking about politics, economics, technology, or international relations, many people simply feel unsure about what comes next.
And maybe that is why so many people spend hours every day reading news, watching videos, and following public figures. They are searching for answers.
Exactly. But sometimes there are no simple answers. The world is becoming more connected, more complicated, and faster than ever before.
That is very true. Sometimes I think people expect somebody to have all the answers. Maybe a politician, maybe a business leader, maybe a technology expert. But reality is usually more complicated than that.
Yes, and I think one of the healthiest things people can do is stay informed while also staying calm. It is important to understand what is happening in the world, but it is also important not to become overwhelmed by every headline.
That is a really good point. Because if somebody spends every day reading arguments, controversies, and political fights, they can start feeling anxious very quickly.
Exactly. And despite all the challenges we talked about today, there are also many positive things happening in the world. Technology continues to improve. Medical science continues to advance. New opportunities continue to appear.
Sometimes the news focuses so much on problems that people forget progress is happening too.
Very true. And I think balance is important here as well. Understand the problems, but also recognize the progress.
So maybe the future is not something to fear. Maybe it is simply something we need to understand better.
I like that idea. Because no matter what happens politically or technologically, people will continue adapting like they always have.
And perhaps that is the most important lesson from today's conversation. The world changes, leaders change, technology changes, but people continue finding ways to move forward.
Exactly.
Well, Emma, this has been a really interesting discussion.
Definitely. We covered politics, technology, social media, public figures, and the future all in one conversation.
And most importantly, we hope everyone listening learned some useful English while thinking about some of the biggest topics in the world right now.
Thank you for spending time with us today.
And thank you for listening to Real Talk Daily.
Take care, everyone.
We'll see you in the next episode.